Thanks for joining me today for episode 99 of Think Big with Michael Zellner. All positive, no politics. This is a place where you're not going to find negativity. You're not going to hear about politics, all the yucky stuff going out there in the world. Here, you're going to hear messages from my guests, positive, uplifting, inspiring. So, if that's what you're looking for, this is the place definitely to be. I'm really excited to have on my guest today. He is a saxophone player. He's been in the music industry for 50 years playing the saxophone. He's also a singer and a songwriter. David's blend of music is contemporary jazz combined with R&B, funk flair, and he's going to tell us a little bit about that today. His name is David Carr Jr. David, thanks for joining me.
Oh, the pleasure's mine. Good to see you, Mike.
Good to see you too. Tell us something interesting about yourself that most people don't know.
Well, a lot of people do know that because I do share that story a lot about the first thing my dad told me. Well, I'll tell you what, that I haven't told him this one. When
Okay.
my dad first handed me my first alto saxophone back in '72,
Wow. Wow.
um, he said, "Son, you need to understand this. It'll be 10 years before you can even figure out what's going on with that thing." And for a 12-year-old, that's like, what are you talking about, man? I don't have 12 years to be.
Right.
So that's just a fun little, quick little thing. One part of the journey.
You were born in Denver. I believe you grew up in Oklahoma. You went to Star Spencer High School. What are a few of the positive memories you have of your childhood that influenced your life the most?
Oh man. When one of my band directors in beginning band told me I had a really nice sound, and
Awesome.
I'm still trying to figure things out. And I was playing with when I got to good enough to where my dad started invite me on some of his gigs. One of his the guitar player, James Walker Sr., one of the most incredible, smoothest blues players I'd ever heard in my life, guitar and singer, told me, "Little Dave," and they called me Little Dave because my dad was 6'8". So,
Wow.
and he said, "You have more soul than an old Brogan shoe." Stuff like that. So, carrying my
Still
little alto saxophone back and forth to school and in a pillowcase at first because we couldn't afford a new horn. So that was
makes you
fun
smile
too.
today thinking about that stuff, doesn't it?
Oh, awesome. I'm constantly smiling. I'm like, but why you was smiling? I said, I got a lot to be smiling for.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You started, as you mentioned, at the age of 12 years old, and I believe you're self-taught. Why was there such an interest, at this age? How did this all get started for you?
There was a one of these times my dad was ripping and running. They did shows back in those days called matinees, where the gig would be like at 5 o'clock. And my dad ran late for everything, so he's picking me up from school. He's dressed to go to work, but he has to get to work. He's already late when he picks me up for the gig, and he's got this dashiki on. It's the '70s, and he goes into the club, and the band's already playing, so he takes me with him. I'd never been with him before, and it's all this stuff that's going on. The band's killing because he knew he'd be running late, so they're already playing. He opens his tenor sax up, his case, and he sits me down first and tells the wait staff, "Give me a little orange juice or something, And meanwhile, it's a club, so it's racket going on. It's a lot of stuff
Right.
going on. And my dad pulls out his tenor saxophone and he immediately starts destroying the place with his horn. It was crazy. It was like, wow, I gotta do that. I gotta do that. So I was done from that point on.
You talk about your dad. You started, touring around him, around Oklahoma City when you were just 14 years old. Your dad said these words to you early in your sax career, quote, just worry about getting the tone, the notes will come, unquote. What did that mean to you at that time, and how did it affect you in your music?
The longer I played it, because it's one of those kind of things this is why he said 10 years. You have to learn how, okay, you find where everything is. And you can structurally get in there, okay, A, B, C, D, and the theory and all. You get and do all that. But this thing here, is the worst designed instrument, I think, in the history of man, because it doesn't help you on any level. Whatever you get out of it, you have to work at it. So in that journey, I'm playing, and I never really, as a listening to other saxophone players, or listen to more music and listen to other players' tones, and especially the old school guys, the Stanley Turrentines, the Hank Crawfords. Grover was one of the newer cats that came on, Grover Washington Jr. Uh, uh, and so I'm like, and I heard all these identities in these guys playing, and it was their tone. That's where I start noticing their tone, and that's what set them apart from the other guy. And so it started making sense to me what my dad was saying, and so I started working on that because I wanted to try to make this thing sound like it was trying to say words to you
I love that.
while you're playing it. So this just happened. It's a true story. Just happening at a Christmas show I was doing with a friend of mine, and this lady, we're playing holiday music. I'm doing some stuff off my holiday CD, and she came up to me and she said, I hate saxophone. She said, when I saw you pick it up, I had a visceral a reaction until you started playing. She said, I've never heard a saxophone sound like that. And that's kind of the damning of this instrument, because it doesn't help you.
Right.
It'll either sound like a horn, or it'll move people in a way from just the tone of it. So the tone to me is the most important. And my dad was right. All that other stuff, there's such a journey in that, but that tone, you can get away with 3 notes instead of playing 30. You can play 3 and make it work if your tone is together. Big, full-bodied sound instrument.
It's awesome. I've never heard it explained that way.
Yeah, it's kind of a old school thing where they don't, when it comes to, some things never change.
Right.
This instrument hasn't changed, and so the approach to it is that shouldn't change. But if you just think just getting the notes out and playing a bunch of modes and stuff like that, then that's cool. Knock yourself out. But if your tone isn't together, people are not going to enjoy it. I've gotten fans that have never listened to music, saxophone music before. You just make the thing sound so good, man. I love my job, and I'm still working on it. It's still a journey and process, in the works.
Has to make you feel good when someone comes up to you and tells you that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You graduated from high school and then you went into the Marines. What led you to that decision?
Well, well, I, at that time, I'm 17, didn't really get along with my dad much. Even though we had that connection through the music, I'm still a growing boy or teenager, and so I'm not getting along with him. So I went in the Marine Corps really because I was mad at him. And it's another one of those. It's one of those decisions. It was one of the best decisions I ever made. I might have stumbled into it, but that's why I went.
What did it teach you?
Oh, that you're not all that in a bag of chips. Yeah, you think you're all that? Not today. Not while you're here. Not while you're standing on at Camp Pendleton. Not. Mm-mm. Lean green milk killing machine. That's what you are today.
Right. Discipline did it help you with that?
It absolutely did, and it helped me musically because I did manage to join the Marine Corps band, and so I changed MOSs a couple times while I was in.
That's awesome. Quote,
Mm-hmm.
David's smooth and rhythmic sounds has been compared with such legendary greats as you mentioned, Grover Washington Jr. and David Sanborn, unquote. That's some amazing company there. What have you learned from their music, and what do you think about the comparisons that have been made?
I humbly appreciate the compliments, because those guys stood in their own shoes and laid a path out for up and coming saxophonists, especially cats like Grover Washington
He
And
died young.
oh my God. Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was like I think he was only like 56 years
Yeah,
old.
that's right.
And and Sanborn had a very special sound, and then crossed over and became, you know, he wasn't a pop player, but it crossed over into a pop kind of pop jazz thing that worked very well back in the 90s, 80s, late 80s and 90s. But his sound was unique to him. And Grover went in a funk zone and in his tone that was unique to him that that you still haven't, you don't hear. You still don't.
And Sanborn's the person
Mm.
who I think of, when it comes to the saxophone, growing up. That's the person who I always thought about as, David Sanborn, how great he was.
Mm-hmm. He was I would say, it's just he was probably the sickest alto saxophone player I'd ever heard in my life. It didn't matter what genre he played in,
Right.
bebop, straight ahead, big band, a pop, funk. It didn't matter to him. It was going to be all over you. you know.
What do you feel the importance of having a strong stage presence, while a musician is performing? How important is that?
That's all of it. I mean, excuse me. It's cool just to be a great player. That's cool. That's awesome. And I have kind of a funny description of us as entertainers. We are clowns for the people, and that's not a demeaning thing.
Right.
We're entertainers. We're on a stage. We would like for them to buy a ticket and check out our work, and entertaining. Because I personally would like people to feel what I'm feeling when I'm performing it. Because I get so much joy out of the music, and so when I present it to people, I hope they're getting that same kind of joy out of it.
What do you feel when you're playing? What kind of feeling goes through your mind?
Oh man, euphoric is the closest description I can come up with. You're in a place that you're on a day-to-day basis you're not in.
Right.
But when that groove starts and those notes start coming out of that sax, it's euphoric. That's the only way I know how to.
And you probably, when you're on the stage and you're playing, I know you're just totally focused on your music, but I know there's times, obviously, you look out and you see the crowd and you see the smiling, you see people moving in their seats and really getting into the music, and you know that they're really feeling that music. That has to just to make you feel incredible.
Oh man, that's what I'm living for. That's what I'm living for.
Yeah. Quote, David Carr Jr. is driven by one thing and one thing only, music, unquote. What does that mean to you?
That's that's kind of deep, especially 50 years into it. Other things drive me, but there was no one driving force more directed at my heart and soul than music. And I still wake up thinking about it, and I still go to bed thinking about it. Still, all these years later. And that's, as a 62-year-old entertainer, that still blows me away. And the music, since I write my own material and still produce my own stuff, the music still surprises me.
And a lot of entertainers that playing as long as you have, they're probably at some point in time they would lose a little bit of that drive and energy. Obviously, you haven't.
No, I haven't for the music part, because I focused on the music.
Right.
The business, the industry, oh, that'll suck it right out of you. Just
Yeah.
suck the life right out of you and throw you in the garbage. And I remember telling people 30 years ago, they would something to be focused on something I would feel like was petty to my career. I said, look, I need to be doing this. They need to be focused on the music. 30 years from now, I can think, because I remember saying that 30 years ago.
Right.
Well, I was right. The music should speak for itself. The music speaks for itself. And I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
If the music continues to surprise me, and it will, because it's a it's a galact not even galact it's a universe of music. It never ends. It never stops. The journey never. You keep dabbling around in there, it will surprise you, and you'll go, "Oh, that's nice. I like that." Sometimes you hear it out of the artist up and come. You go, "Oh man, that is cool." You know, so
And we've talked about off there before we got started. I have a few friends of mine that are in some, pretty big bands, and they've told me how much music has changed over the years, that it's harder now for bands to come up and get big and to make money because of all the different ways, downloading the music and the streaming. Music has changed so much. From when you started playing, I mean, tape machines, albums, 8 tracks, cassettes, CDs, and now we're downloading and streaming. And I'm sure I'm missing some on that list too. What are some of the ways that music has changed over the years that has affected you, the way you write, record, and perform?
just it on its own, the music on its own, as I grow as an artist, my music changes. I'm not saying I'm or a better writer or a better. I'm a better saxophonist, that's for sure, because that just goes with time.
Sure.
You become more comfortable with the instrument. It becomes more and more part of you. The music, I still write it. I approach it the same, something unique, uh, something you can feel, whether it be a funk or a really beautiful ballad. But when it comes to trying to market it, in this time for me, since there was a strong in the 80s and 90s, a strong, well, 70s, 80s and 90s, for adult contemporary instrumental stuff, especially saxophone music. Well, it got so saturated and they started dumbing it down quite a bit because the industry got a hold to it once a certain saxophonist had a certain sound. I'm not going to call his name because I have a lot of respect for him. And they wanted it all to sound like that. The industry said, we want it all like that. Well, they killed what made it cool. And so these cats stopped being creative in it. So all the production was the same, all the writing was the same. It had to be a formula. I don't believe in formulas. If I can't be an artist in this, I'm not doing it.
Right.
I don't care if I make $1 or no dollars. If I can't be creative in this thing, I'm out.
And
So
we don't want to talk about politics, but music industry is political. It's business
yeah.
like.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend of mine, Josie Scott, that was the lead singer of Saliva, and
Okay.
he told me when they were trying to get signed back in 2001, all these big record labels brought them into New York or LA, put them in these fancy hotels, fancy dinners, and then they got in an auditorium, and all these guys in suits were standing there with their arms crossed, and they were playing. And they would say, nope, nope. And all these people passed on them
Yeah.
until the final record company they got, I think it was Island, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll remember that correctly. But he said that they were on the phone on a conference call, and the guy said, yeah, we want to bring him to New York. And it was Josie, all the band members, his agent, his managers, and this guy. And he said, nope, we're not going to do that. And he said he knew he was taking a big risk, but he had to stand firm.
Yeah.
And the guy, Josie said, if you want to hear us, you're going to have to come to Memphis. We're going to pack out the New Daisy Theater on Beale Street and see us play in front of a live audience. And he said there was like 15 seconds of silence, and everybody was like probably freaking out in their mind. And the guy finally goes, okay, I'll do it.
Okay.
Came down here, saw them play, signed them, end of story. They ended up, for several years, they were pretty big and did really well. But
Yeah.
it's such a business that it's really hard for people to see that are outside of
it. It is. And when you're talking about just the bean counters and what somebody, hell, I'm even guilty of thinking, oh man, why is that even? And it's like selling millions or
Sure.
they're packing out arenas. So I don't. My thought is like when I grew up in the '70s and got turned on to Grover Washington Jr. and he was packing stadiums because of Mr. Magic, that song, Mr. Magic, his hit.
Yeah.
One of his hits. And today, that's still one of my favorite songs, even though I don't play it. I say I will not be.
Right.
That's enough of that. I still don't understand why that song was a hit. I don't
Interesting.
get it. I don't get it. Even though I love that song, why is that a hit? I don't understand. Oh, it's marketing, the time when
Yeah.
that came out, maybe. So I don't know. I remember a record producer came out to him years ago. Was like, well, we want hits. We want hits. Well, whatever that means.
Right.
You want some. Is it?
And you
Uh,
never know when something's
you
going to be
don't
hit.
know.
Yeah,
You
you
don't
never know.
know. Just put out the work. Make sure it's quality, and you put your heart and soul into it, and don't worry about whether it's a hit or not. Don't let the outside get in there and influence you as an artist. Be willing to take that risk. I don't have any Grammys on my wall. I've
Right.
been kind of nominated, but I'm not worried about that. That doesn't
Right.
bother me because when I show up at shows and people say, "David, can you play this song off of this album?" That's what I live for. You know, that's what
The,
I live for. You know,
the Denton Record Chronicle out of Denton, Texas said, quote, Carr's debut CD, Sounds of Innocence, is definitely a labor of love, one which saw Carr serving not only as a performer, but as a writer, producer, and engineer. Sounds of Innocence was released in 1995. Tell the audience about that album, what inspired you and what that music means to you.
well, of course, your first major release, of course, it was on my label, so that's how major it
Right.
was. um, and it was the first one I engineered and did in my home studio and the whole thing, and that it wasn't as big as it is now as far as the digital world. Being able to record digital at your home studio was kind of a really new thing at that time when the ADATs came out and all that. And the music itself, oh, the slaving over it and the laboring over it and the whole intensity over it. So many nights I went to sleep just with the mixes on my floor, in my studio, just the tape still running. Hours later, I was like, oh, I fell asleep on the floor. Oh, okay, that mix sounds good, and you know, it mean that first one is huge because once I got over that hump, there had to be another one. There had to be another one, and so and like each song kind of has a story behind it. And one of these days, I guess when I do my book that nobody will read, I'll tell the story behind each one of the songs. But the title track was written for my girls, my daughters, and Sounds of Innocence, and that's the first thing you hear is one of my daughters, you know, talking at the very beginning.
Very neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read where you're pretty athletic. You lift weights, you cycle, play basketball every week. Obviously, it's important for all of us to take care of ourselves and our health. I would take it for a saxophone player, making sure that you're always healthy, taking care of your lungs has to be pretty crucial for you.
That's why I never smoked, never did drugs. Uh, as I got older, I drank a little. I drink a little bit, just me a little wine, stuff like that. But
Right.
I believe I've always been kind of fixated on health. I lost my dad when he was young. He was my age when he passed away. He was 62. Um, his blood pressure caught up with him, so I take care of myself. I go to the doctor when I'm supposed to, and I want longevity in life, and I want longevity in this business, in this journey of mine. So that's it's huge, and so many of us as artists, we get sidetracked in other things, and sometimes the drugs get us a hold of us and cuts everything short. I've
Right.
lost a lot of musician friends because of it, and I don't want to preach to nobody because everybody's grown, but I occasionally I say, you need to get you some more walking in because
Right.
it's not so much basketball for me these days. More than it's just let me go walk my 5 miles and get that over with 3-4 days a week. Let me get that out the way. Watch what I eat and make sure I'm surrounded by positive things,
Absolutely.
positive people. You know,
It makes all the difference in the world.
absolutely, absolutely,
In
absolutely.
2002, you and your band debuted in New Orleans as the headlining band for NFL VIP and celebrity. The Super Bowl party was held at the aquarium. How did that come about?
Oh man, that was through. A booking agent, O.D. O'Donnell. Some kind of way he came up, and I did quite a few bookings with him, and he came up with that gig. That was a nice gig.
Did you
That
meet
was a nice
anybody
gig.
big there?
I did not. I didn't. It was outside. It was a little chaotic.
I bet it was super
And there was
impulsive.
another band that was going to open and all that stuff like that. And I provided PA for that thing, so I took a big PA system down there, and so it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. A
Yeah, I
lot of
bet that
fun.
had to be really cool to do that.
It really was. It was.
You've released several albums over your career, David. I know it's hard to pick just one that you not that maybe enjoy playing the most, but also maybe this means the most to you. If you could just name one, what would it be and why?
The album itself or a
Yeah,
song
the
or
album.
I would say my third album, I Thought You Knew, because I managed to do that one. And when it was all said, done, and finished, and I loaded the product in the car to finish the deal, I didn't owe anybody any money.
Sweet.
There was a totally 100% independent, no investors involved project.
What about a song?
Um, I would say one of my favorite songs. I love playing it because it's a beautiful song. Every time I play it, sometimes I can't believe I wrote it. It's a song called "When She Dances," and it's off my second, the double CD. Uh, it's a really pretty song. It really is.
All three of your saxophones, your alto, tenor, and soprano, were given to you on stage by your fans. As a surprise birthday gift. I can't imagine how that made you feel. The Dallas Morning News said, "quote David Carr has the sizzle and grooving moves that audiences respond to enthusiastically." Unquote. We talked a little bit about it, but what have those devoted and loyal fans of your music? What have they meant to you? All over all these years and the success you've had.
Being very, I don't know if I have the words. It's just, it's very endearing to me that anybody would listen to me. And sometimes they drive from all over the country. If I'm when I manage to get one of my concerts done, they'll drive in and fly in from all parts of this
Wow,
country to listen to me after all these years.
that's
Remember, you
amazing.
played my wedding, and they're standing there with two grandchildren, not just their children. This is how long they're standing there with their grandchildren. So two generations. I just did a show um, for a fan's son, and he unfortunately lost his mom and dad that were fans. So I was standing there playing for him, and I said, man, you do realize I have been playing for four generations of you guys. Your mom and dad. No, it's three. I'm sorry. Your mom and dad, you, and your son. So it's three generations. I mean, how I couldn't see that never crossed my mind as a young
Sure.
musician. That profoundly. I was sitting there. It almost when I thought about it, I was welling up as I was talking to them about it. I said, "Your son, you were a little baby when they brought you to Strictly Taboo and hear me play, and so I'm playing for your son and your wife. So those things along this journey, this musical journey, this life journey, I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
I'm paying attention.
Your
There's more music in that. More to go.
and your music means something to all those people.
It does. It's fascinating and humbling. It's unbelievable. Sometimes I can't believe it. I sometimes I just can't believe it. It's overwhelming.
You had a lot of radio stations across the country play your full album of Christmas songs this year. What's it like to hear yourself on the radio if you have?
To be honest, I haven't.
Okay.
Wait a minute, that's not true. My youngest daughter was going to school in Austin, and she did an interview, a radio interview, and featured me on this interview. So she did she was kind of the host, and so I got to hear it that way like one time, but because I don't listen to radio,
Yeah.
I just kind of don't. If I'm listening to something, I'm listening to another mix I just did, or another song's got to come out, another album's got to. I've just finished another album, and I'm like, okay, we got to do the other one. Well, you haven't even released this other one yet, so I'm still
You're always
slow.
thinking ahead.
Yes, yes.
Have you had other people tell you they've heard your songs on the radio? And
But yeah, I have occasionally. I absolutely have. You know,
that's
I get
cool.
emails and stuff sometimes, and they're like, "Oh, we really love your music," and even when I see it, I can't believe it because I'm
Right.
still that 12-year-old kid that first picked it up when I'm doing
Exactly.
this. You know, so I know that may sound cliche-ish, and people may not even believe me, but I'm being 100% honest. When I have this and I'm playing, I'm that 12-year-old kid all over again.
You don't take yourself too seriously, do you?
No, I try to. I try to take myself less serious hey, it's all okay. It's all good. You know how to do it. Just don't calm down, son. You can calm
Right.
down. You're 62 years old. Calm down. It's all right. It's all good.
In your opinion, what do you believe is the toughest part about being a musician today?
Staying focused and believing in what you're doing. That's the deal. There's so many distractions. It doesn't before internet and all that other stuff. Even for me as a youngster growing up, everything, you know, so many distractions,
Right.
and just you have to become. It has to become a semi obsession about it. I say you have to go to bed thinking about it. You have to wake up thinking about it, and and focusing on that, even if it gets hard and discouraging. And believe me, I've thought about just I'm selling all this stuff that lasts about 30 seconds. I said, nope, go to fire up the studio, go write some more music, go write some more.
Were you nervous the first time you played in front of a big crowd?
The first time I was in high school at a talent show, and I thought I was going to pass out. My legs were shaking so bad. I won first place in that talent show,
Sweet.
but played "Oh Happy Day," the old gospel song, "Oh Happy Day."
You were inducted into the Oklahoma Blues Hall of Fame last year in 2021. What did that honor mean to you after such a long career?
It meant so many things to me because my father was inducted, but he had already passed on.
Yeah.
So it's like these triple, quadruple whammies on me. I had a concert coming up that year. I was gonna the concert was gonna be in his honor. I got inducted, and my cousin Bronco, he plays bass with me. His dad got inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame. His dad's a musician, so it was really very, very surreal to me because I am living and breathing, and I got inducted.
Right.
And to be, I still try to wrap my head around it. You know, like I'm
What was
still
that
there.
call? Did you get a call to let you know that you had been,
Yeah,
inducted?
yeah, yeah.
But that
Well,
was a cool call.
it was, and I was looking forward to it. And I ran into some musicians that are still alive playing that I cut my teeth on when I was a kid. I ran into them; they're still kicking it, and it was a lot of fun. It was great. It was great. They were very,
Congratulations. That's a
yeah,
big honor. So
yeah.
I know you got to be proud of yourself for that, and you deserve to be.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
My
Yes.
pleasure. You said, quote, I rarely share anything on my timeline that doesn't have to do with my music directly, but I thought this was worth watching. Happy holidays, everyone, unquote. It was a video that you just posted, Tyler Perry. It was sharing a really special message, a heartfelt message. What made you share that video, with everyone on your Facebook page? What was it about that video?
It was I lost my mother uh when I was a kid to suicide in 1969. And I didn't realize that Tyler Perry, he's a ginormous human being in the
Sure.
in the industry, and he helps so many people. And I have
He's amazing.
ultimate respect for him, and I did not realize he had uh, a pretty some pretty profound moments in his life where he a couple times he tried to end it.
Yeah.
And so I thought about my mom, and in these days, it's more and more people are coming out and being more comfortable with talking about uh, their mental illness without it being a stigma. Because some people still can't relate to it, or it's like you can't see it like an open wound. It's not like that. Uh, growing up with a mother that had her issues, and I have kind of a vague memory because it was so long ago, some of her behavior and stuff like that. Uh, when I saw that, it just that one thing movie, and there's a ton of people struggling with stuff.
Yeah.
Lost another musician friend of mine during COVID. He destroyed himself, and so didn't see it coming on none of that. And so it just was I know a lot of people are struggling with things, and sometimes they're too afraid to reach out because some people don't understand.
Yeah, it's hard for people a lot of times to be so transparent. We see things on social media. Most of the time, people are posting stuff that people are going to like and, acknowledge, but a lot of times they're not posting the real stuff. And I brought this up and about that video. I did not know that about your mom. And I know that I couldn't imagine what that was like for you as a young child. I've struggled myself. I had on somebody a podcast a few months ago that I'd seen online. He had struggled, and a guy who was a trainer,
Yeah,
and we had a podcast that talked about suicide
yeah,
because I almost a few years ago going through some struggles after some health issues
yes, sir.
myself almost did it, and I'm so thankful that I didn't, and was able
So
to
am
get,
I.
yeah,
So am I, brother.
yeah, and so thank you, and it's just you just never know, you
You
never
don't.
know.
Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get no clues. You get no, and I'm trying to talk to people around me. You guys pay attention, you know, uh, to people sometimes, because it in any given moment, somebody may just decide that's enough of this,
Yeah.
and they like I don't understand why our guitar player friend didn't reach out to somebody,
Yeah.
you know, we
and,
didn't,
and there are probably so many people, like you said, there's just no signs because they
mm-hmm.
just seem so happy and outgoing, and you just don't know the demons that people are fighting inside.
Right. So we got to care for each other, man. We just try to, we just have to care for each other, literally.
And
And
you and I grew up, and I'm a generation behind you, but we
mm-hmm,
grew up in
mm-hmm,
eras that you had to talk to people directly.
mm-hmm.
It wasn't just
Right,
instant message, it wasn't text message. We
right.
grew up and we developed so much more empathy and compassion for people than today's generation does. And so
Yeah,
people have to work harder at it. You're exactly right.
they do because they can type something or I don't understand it. Of course I'm older, so I don't understand if you getting hated on social media. Why don't you just turn that crap off? Well, for some reason they can't.
Right.
So I don't understand why you can't. So I'm lacking in that understanding. If you getting haters, why are you why are you doing that? Why are you acknowledging?
Yeah.
I got a couple of friends of mine that are my age, and they fuss with people online about politics. Why are you doing
Yeah. You're not
that?
changing anyone's mind.
No, you're just sitting there online, back and forth. I'm fussing with people online. I don't understand. Unless if I can't say it to you, I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm just not
Right.
gonna do it. I'm not going there.
Because people that would be so scared to say something like that in person, they're not afraid to do it on the computer.
Mm-mm. Yeah, blah 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 blah, and out.
Yep.
Just out. So I'm about trying to keep it positive and keep some love and some music and something to eat.
Yeah. And I'm glad you shared that video. Actually, I shared that video on my page last night too, because I think it's just
That's
such an
great.
important message. So
That's great.
I'm really glad because I never knew that about him, and I never would have known if you hadn't shared that on your page. So I thank you
That
for
was
that.
my thought. That was my thought. I was thinking maybe some people don't know, and this is important.
Absolutely.
This is absolutely important. It has nothing to do with trying to sell nothing or how many likes am I going to? This has nothing to do with that. This has to do with the human being, the human condition, and a lot of us are struggling in ways that people don't even realize. You know,
Absolutely. So I tell
you know.
people all the time, I've been a lot very transparent over the last few years, and I hope people are too, because you find out that there are people out there that do care.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So on a positive note, you're part of TJ Cates production company, and how did you meet TJ and his wife Jill Santabanez?
I produce one of their other artists, Jennifer Emmerd. I think she says is the correct way to say it, and she's a very talented singer and songwriter. And I don't even remember when I actually met her, but I had met her a few years ago. And then she reached out to me a couple years later and said she wanted to do some recording. And I was like, well, yeah, I mostly just recorded me because I can't set up drums and stuff in here. But, and then some time went by, some stuff happened in her life. And then she reached back out to me and came over and we started working. And she is so good as a singer and a songwriter. It's unbelievable to me that she picked me to like tap around on her music. And I think I'm doing her justice as a producer. So I have been working with her for a couple of years, and she said, "Well, I got to talk to my label." And I said, "Talk to your label? What? I didn't even know you were on." I didn't even know. See, yeah, I've been working with this company out of Nashville and Nashville Entertainment. I said, "Jennifer, how could you never even?" So she mentioned she mentioned me to them. They reached out. We talked a little bit, and because I said I've got to get more of a digital presence going because it's between the CD sales, I can't really the hard copies that they're
Right.
taking that away from me because of streaming thing and all that. I just need to look at trying to stay relevant and maybe get some streaming revenue if that's even possible, which is really tough unless you're getting hundreds of thousands of
Yeah.
streams. It doesn't really, or if somebody's downloading it or whatever. Me, I just look at it as more of a just trying to stay relevant because it's not like there's a lot of saxophone music coming out, especially the way I do it. Uh, uh, and because I've even played, and some young people, they don't even know what the instrument is.
Right. I can
I'm like,
imagine. Yeah.
so I said, I just want to keep my name and the brand out there so I can, because I'm still interested in it and, and get work, because I play corporate stuff and private parties, and I'm not cheap, you
Right.
know. So, because when they look at my resume, they go, oh yeah, we're gonna have to pay him. Yeah. And
Yeah.
he's really good at what he does. Because there's some people that are like, oh no, we got to get David every year. There are people that hire me every year like clockwork. And so that's a blessing and fortunate. So Jennifer turned me on to them. So they're uh, uh, keeping me, you know, uh, connected, digitally,
Yeah.
the social media thing.
That's
Because
great.
I'm not going to sit up on Twitter and Instagram. I'm just not going to sit up there and just work that thing. I'm just not
Yeah.
going to do
I don't blame you.
it. I'm just not going to
You
do
got
it.
more important things to do, like writing and playing.
Yeah, and sometimes fishing
Yeah.
and working out, and I've built all these computers in this studio. I built software. I've been building computers for 25 years.
Yeah.
So I know about the technical, I know about the digital world. I recorded it. That's how I produced the whole thing. But there's a limit to my slavery to that part of it. Sit up on Facebook and go, we got to make sure. Oh, y'all, I'm gonna respond to some emails. I'm gonna respond to a few texts. Okay, here's this. I need a company to help me with this because I'm not going to delve in there like that. So that's what they're great at that.
Yeah, they are. They're
Great
really
at that.
good. And I had a
Yeah,
chance to meet them and over first of all, I interviewed TJ and then ended
yeah.
up, interviewing a few of the people like you that work with them and then got to meet them in person and they're just really first class.
Have you interviewed Jennifer yet?
I have not interviewed Jennifer
Oh,
yet.
yeah. They need they need to send her towards you. They do.
Yeah,
He's really
we'll talk
talented.
off after, when we get off air, and I'll get her name so I can look her up because yeah, that sounds
Okay.
great. I
Yeah.
appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
You've played across the United States and abroad. It's like you talked about large and small events, weddings, private parties, music festivals, jazz concerts, and so much more. What has this 50-year saxophone playing ride been like for you?
You know, Mike, it is. I almost can't describe it. That's. When I look into the night sky, it's like that. I can't describe. I can't describe it. I I'm just riding. I can't explain it. I'll, I'll just keep rolling, but it's undescribable for me. The the surreal vibe about it, because I see it. I see it. This is my unique journey. It's unique for me. This is my journey, and I didn't even think I'd live to be 40, just because I had a different thought process.
Right,
40 was like ancient, and I'd be dead.
right,
Well, I got to be 40, and there are other reasons why I thought I wouldn't be 40. But anyway, and then 45. Then I had a really tough time in there, about 5 years, just trying to uh, get a hold to, okay, what direction is your ability in this so-called career? Because it's kind of it's so weird right now, David. You can't make sense of it. You're going to have to gather your thoughts creatively, intellectually, moving forward, because your life, it has to keep moving forward from a positive standpoint.
yeah,
In spite of this industry, it has to, and it will, because you want it to. And so the life journey is all one thing. And and you get older, and you pay attention to every decision you make. You pay a little bit more attention to the decision, what you're going to say, to the next person, whether it be about music. What's one of the things that is unfortunate to me in this journey, is that the younger musicians could care less what my thought process is. As a saxophonist, as a somebody's been here 30 years longer than them, they don't even care. They've told me,
wow,
oh no, we don't. I said, oh, cool, cool. I don't even, where I grew up. When a veteran musician was talking to you about your playing, or you sat there, you couldn't even believe they were talking to you,
yeah,
because you had that respect, and that you knew they had been down a road that you couldn't even imagine, and they're talking to you to give you some insight. I still think about stuff the older guys, include my dad, told me when I picked this thing up. I still think about it. I'm like, man, that guy was right. I'm 62 now, because
yeah.
when they were there, I was like 25 when somebody said something, or 30. And one guy came up to me after one of my concerts, probably about 25 years ago, and he said, he was an older gentleman. He said, David, take it all in. Remember it. And when he said that to me, I'm ding, 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 ding. All right, store it. Because he's on to something. Because he was probably my age when he said that to me.
Right.
So I went, okay, take that, stick it in your soul. And he was right. Take it all in. Every time you get, do it. Talking to you right now, take it all in, David. Take it all in. Because you may not make it out of the studio. Who knows what
Right.
might happen? You know.
You talked about how you didn't think you'd make it, to 40. When we're kids, you think 40 is old. Like when I was a kid and Elvis Presley died, he was only 42.
Yeah.
And your parents and stuff, who in the time they were in their 40s, I believe my parents were, you looked at your parents as old.
Yeah.
And you thought Elvis was old, but then when you get up to that age, you're like thinking, "Oh my God, he was so
That was
young."
a kid. He was a kid.
Right, so young.
42. Man, that's 20 years younger than what I am now.
Yeah,
That's like, oh my
I know.
God.
Elvis and my dad were born the same year in 1935.
Man.
I know, and I'm just that's why I say to myself, it's like, wow. I mean, just he think about he'd be 87 today.
Yeah.
What would it have been like to have him for 20, 30 more years playing? I mean,
Well,
just
I think about him. I think about Jimi Hendrix. I'm a he's Jimmy's still influencing me, still.
yeah,
The the way that guy played guitar was like he didn't he wasn't thinking about scales when he was writing that or when he played that solo. His presence on the stage. This is why he still comes up as in the top 5 guitar players every year. 50 years later.
yeah.
Or 40 something years later, whatever, however long when he died, 70. What year was that he passed away? You think I'd remember that? So it's just fascinating. It's very, very fascinating.
I
And I'm
think it was
still
early
learning about it.
70s, wasn't it?
It was early 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was early 70s. He was just a kid. Hell, he wasn't even 30 years old, 20, 26, 27 years old when he passed.
Yeah.
And I think about it, I can't imagine the lights going out on me at 27.
Yeah.
You know.
You're set up where you could play a little bit for us? So
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yes,
I'd love
sir.
for you to play something for the audience, for people to hear your music.
All right, let me see. I just released uh, a single. It's the title track for the next album, and I'm kind of releasing a single at a time, and I'll do a full release, probably sometimes in 23. But this is available for download and everything. It's the title track called "Groove Addiction,"
Okay.
and it's a fun jam, because that's another attitude I have towards my music is like, these saxophone players, make I have more fun at this stuff sometimes,
Yeah.
Write a fun one that he can actually get up and dance on, So this is let me get my tablet way back here. Oh yeah, she's ready to go. So you may go ahead and play it?
Absolutely. That'd be great. I'm just going to sit back and listen.
All right, cool. Have these try that on me while I was sitting. That's why I kept messing with it. Groove Addiction.
Man, wow. That is so awesome.
I hope it sounded okay on your end. Hope it sounded all right on your
Oh
end.
man, it sounded great. It's the first time I've had somebody playing live on my podcast, and that was just awesome.
Oh, cool.
So I appreciate you playing, man. Yeah, man,
that is sweet.
What an amazing instrument.
Oh man, yeah. But as I sat here, the thing dried out on me. I was like, oh man, come on. They won't help you. That's right. They won't help you.
That reminds me of the funny moment. I'm sure you've probably been asked about this before. The Seinfeld episode of the saxophone.
I've never seen it.
You have to go on and watch it. I don't love it. I wasn't a big fan of the show until after it ended, and I started. Now I love it. It's on TV and everything, but you have to go on and watch. I think it's in season 9. I think it's in the last season, but go on and watch it. You will find it very humorous.
Okay.
So I won't spoil it for you. It's pretty funny, the whole premise of it. So you'll like that a lot.
I'll do that.
Yeah, it's funny. David, what are the most important lessons that you've learned in life?
Just be determined, stay positive, be open to others. Try to avoid being so selfish. Because the rest will work itself out.
Yeah.
Keep your mind and your hands and your heart open. Just, life has a lot of beautiful things to offer you if you just pay attention.
I like that a lot. How can people find you and follow your music online?
Well, I'm on Facebook, and I have a webpage, davidcarrjr.com. Um, and there's contact information on there. There's my CDs if anybody wants hard copies, because you can only get them from my website.
Okay.
And because I have a music store page and stuff like that. And so I'm easy to find. Facebook and my website, davidcarrjr.com. And I'm a working musician. So
Sweet. We talked about, I'm a big music buff, having on my little live music bar in the late 90s that I had here in Memphis. And I love all different kinds of music. Always been a fan of, David Sanborn and how talented, he was. And,
yeah.
after listening to your music, online and now in person, there's no doubt, as good as he is, you're just as good in my opinion. That's,
talent. You honor me, sir. I
very
appreciate
talented.
you.
For as long as you've been doing this and sharing your music with the world, obviously you love what you do, and it shows. So, man, I really appreciate
if the world will allow me, I'll keep sharing it with it. The world will allow me.
Absolutely. I mean, I appreciate you coming on today, David. It's been an honor.
I appreciate you having me, brother. I really appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much. Wish you all the best.
You have a great day, Michael.
You too. Thank you.